Welcome to the deep dive. We take a bunch of sources, pull out the key insights, and try to get you well informed fast. Today, we're diving into something pretty special, a really big moment for Canada, actually. A historic win in sports that honestly feels bigger than just the game itself. We're talking about Canada's own Brooke Henderson. She just pulled off something incredible in the world of golf. So our mission for this deep dive is kind of two parts. First, we're going to celebrate this victory, unpack what it means, how she got there. But then we're going to pivot a little, take a look at the bigger picture. The whole messy, busy news world that this great news popped out of. It's about context, right?
Yeah.
And how we make sense of one amazing story. Well, there's so much else going on. We've got sources that give us a great view of her win, but also a snapshot of everything else happening. Okay, let's unpack this.
Wow.
What a moment for Canadian sports, eh?
It really is something.
Brooke Henderson has, cemented her place in history. Our source makes it super clear. She's the first Canadian golfer in, get this, over a century to win the National Open twice.
Over 100 years. Just pause on that for a second.
Exactly. It's huge. That historical weight, it just adds another layer, doesn't it? It's way more than just the score.
Definitely.
And what makes it even more, compelling, the source says she got herself back on top of the podium 2 years since her last victory.
Right, that 2-year gap.
Yeah. So it's not just winning, it's coming back to win. That speaks volumes about resilience, dedication, sustained excellence. That's tough in any sport.
Incredibly tough, especially golf.
And this victory, it's not in isolation. The source mentions it caps off a banner summer for Canada in women's sports. So it's part of this bigger wave of success. What's your take on that, her comeback, and where this fits in with Canadian women's sports right now?
Well, what's fascinating, just like you said, is that consistency piece. Winning a National Open once is hard enough. Winning it twice with that gap, that period, those 2 years, it's not just downtime. It's likely filled with intense work, adjustments, maybe doubt.
Sure, yeah.
So coming back shows incredible mental strength, fortitude, adapting your game, staying right at the top level. It really tells you about the work ethic, the strategy, the mental game that happens off the course, stuff we don't always see.
Good point.
And connecting it to the bigger picture, like the banner summer idea. Success like this, especially in women's sports, it does a lot.
Yeah.
There's the obvious national pride, right? It brings people together.
Totally.
But it's also huge for inspiration. Think about young athletes, young girls, seeing it's possible, and importantly, it raises the profile of women's sports overall, challenges old ideas, helps build towards, a more level playing field. It creates a legacy, defines a sporting identity over time.
That legacy idea is powerful.
Yeah.
But I wonder, with everything else going on in the world, which we're about to get into, how long does that spotlight last? Even for something this big?
That's a fair question. Does it get drowned out?
Yeah, exactly. Does it risk getting lost in the noise of, say, global conflicts or something? And for you listening, think about it. When you hear making history like this, what grabs you? Is it the skill, the comeback story, or is it that feeling of national pride, like she's one of ours? It's a good question. What really sticks with us, especially when you put a clear, positive story like Brooke's win next to, everything else. Because our sources show her win surrounded by a whole mix of other headlines. It's that daily flood of information, isn't it? Diverse, sometimes chaotic.
Absolutely. Let's zoom out then.
Yeah, let's look at that wider picture for a minute.
Okay, so the source material itself is a perfect example of this info overload. Right there on the same virtual page as Brooke's amazing achievement, you get this snapshot of the world. It's got everything from really serious global issues to, more local stuff. It definitely makes you think about how we even process it all.
Nope.
Like, for instance, right alongside the golf story, you see headlines dealing with really complex international stuff. There's mention of a UK terror law against pro-Palestine group, instantly brings up geopolitics.
Right.
Then something with heavy human impact, like Israel condemned for airstrikes on Gaza hospital, a stark reminder of conflict's cost.
Yeah, heavy stuff.
And even nature's force, Typhoon Kajiki. These are just quick examples, but they show the sheer range of things demanding our attention simultaneously. Big global events, natural disasters.
It is kind of dizzying when you lift it like that. It makes you appreciate a straightforward win like Henderson's almost more in a way.
It does. But how do these different types of news, the really heavy global stories next to the uplifting sports news, affect how we take it all in? What does that environment do to us?
Good question.
Well, it creates a real challenge for our attention, doesn't it? You've got
Yeah.
this unifying feel-good story, Henderson's win, clear positive vibes. Then, bam, you're hit with global crises, political debates, domestic worries. It's not just different topics. It's like our brains are constantly switching gears, switching between feeling inspired or happy and
Right.
then processing threat, complexity, maybe sadness or anger.
Right, that whiplash effect.
Exactly. And it probably makes it harder for any single story, even a big win, to completely hold our focus or be fully absorbed on its own. We're forced to see it all together, the good, the bad, the complicated.
That makes sense.
And then looking a bit closer to, well, North America, the sources also mix in domestic issues, Canadian and U.S. stuff. You see headlines like, questions mount about Atlantic Canada's wildfire preparedness. Very real, very current concern for Canadians.
Definitely.
And south of the border, something like Trump orders Smithsonian Museum's review
Hmm.
points to ongoing political currents, cultural discussions, even economic news is in the mix. There's talk about the end of de minimis as rule brings new costs for small businesses. That's about import duties, affects regular businesses and shoppers. Or Carney dropping U.S. tariffs under CUSM, that's the trade deal,
Mhm.
shows how economic policies are always shifting, impacting trade, jobs, prices.
So international conflict, wildfires, museum reviews, trade tariffs, all next to a golf trophy.
Pretty much, yeah.
It really drives home the sheer volume and variety we face every day. So, faced with this constant stream, this mix, how do we find any pattern or like deeper meaning? How do we avoid just getting carried away by the latest headline?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Hmm?
And maybe the insight here is that a real deep dive in today's world isn't just about reading more news.
Okay.
It's more about consciously building your own filters, your own ways to analyze things.
Like what?
Well, one way is to maybe stop reacting to every single headline in isolation. Start looking for the connections, the recurring themes. Like, notice how economic policy, trade deals, consumer spending, they're all linked, right?
Hmm.
Or how international politics can echo in domestic debates. Look for those threads. Another thing is asking why. Not just what happened, but why. What are the underlying trends? What systems are pushing these events? If you start doing that, you're not just consuming facts, you're building a better framework in your head to understand it all. And that helps you place a story like Brooke Henderson's win in a richer context,
Okay.
alongside everything else. It's about being, I guess, actively curious.
Actively curious. I like that. Moving from just receiving news to actually engaging with it, trying to understand it. It is a lot, though. Like you said, the source material shows it perfectly. It's a fire hose. Makes you think, how do you decide what to focus on? What warrants your deep dive versus what just, flows past? Because it's all there together, isn't it? The triumphs, the tragedies, the politics, the everyday worries, side by side.
Exactly. And if we zoom out one last time, connecting this to the bigger picture, those individual bright spots, like Henderson's amazing win, they give us clarity, joy, national pride, they're important moments. But the rest of the news landscape, it constantly reminds us how complex the world is, often contradictory. And understanding the why of one story, even a great one like Brooks, often means you have to acknowledge the what else that's happening at the same time.
Right. The context shapes how we see everything.
Precisely. It shapes our perception, our whole worldview, really.
Okay, so to wrap up, we celebrated a fantastic historic Canadian golf victory today. Huge achievement, lots of pride, lots of dedication behind it. And doing that also led us to think about the massive amount of other stuff happening globally, locally, that fills our news feeds constantly. It's quite the contrast. And a reminder that, yeah, understanding our world takes effort, continuous effort. So maybe here's a final thought for you to take away. In this world where a huge win like Brooke Henderson's sits right next to global conflict or economic worries, maybe the real deep dive isn't just about one story. Maybe it's about finding the connections between the stories. The insight we hope you take away is that true understanding might come from consciously deciding how you filter, how you digest, how you make sense of that endless stream, looking for those underlying patterns. So how will you look for those deeper insights, beyond just the headlines, in your own daily deep dive? Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep learning.